Greetings everyone, this is Longnu. Welcome to Spiritual Science. Today I'm going to be talking about people of the third sex. So throughout history, in very ancient times, the most ancient civilization, Vedic civilization, the third sex was very well accepted. Unlike it is today, where the third sex in most countries really has to hide their identity. So what is the third sex? Well, the third sex is gays and lesbians, and also it encompasses transgenders and anything in between this. So let me talk thoroughly about the third sex. Now, in modern times, there has been much controversy concerning the position and rights of gay and other third gender groups within society. Should they be feared and eliminated as a harmful, corruptive force within our midst? Should they be ignored and hidden away, being denied the basic rights and privileges that other citizens enjoy? Or should they be welcomed as simply another color within the rainbow of human variety? The answer to these questions can be found in the ancient Vedic literatures of India, which have thoroughly analyzed and recorded all aspects of human behavior and knowledge since time immemorial. So you see, this is the problem of many so-called religions, fake religions. They try to shun the third sex. And they try to make it as if they are sinful people or there's something wrong with them. And in many cultures, it's against the law to be who they are. It goes so far against them. And it really shouldn't be that way, because really they are another color within the rainbow of human variety. And it is not that there is any increased population of the third sex today than there was in ancient history. They have always existed since time immemorial. Since the beginning of creation, the third sex has always been existed. And so I was watching a debate the other day. It was talking about are men becoming more feminine? And no, but the exposure of the third sex is becoming more in the open so that people can visually see now. And before, they had to hide so much. But more progressive countries like Canada, Europe, the United States, Australia, places like this, it is becoming more accepted, and laws are starting to protect them, which is good. So I'll continue now. After the Vedas were issued forth from Brahma at the beginning of creation, Manu set aside the verses concerning civic virtues and ethics, thus compiling the Dharma Shastra. Similarly, Prahaspati set aside the verses concerning politics, economy, and prosperity to compile the Artha Shastra. Nandi, the companion of Lord Shiva, set aside the verses concerning sense pleasure and sexuality, thus compiling the Kama Shastra. The great sage Vyasadeva put this Kama Shastra into writing approximately 5,000 years ago, along with all other Vedic literatures. It was then subsequently divided into many parts and almost lost until recompiled by the Brahmin sage Vatsyayana during the Gupta period, or about 300 AD. The result was the famed Kama Sutra, or Codes of Sensual Pleasure. Although commonly presented to Westerners in the format of an erotic sex manual, the actual unabridged Kama Sutra gives us a rare glimpse into the sexual understandings of ancient Vedic India. The three categories of gender. Throughout Vedic literature, the sex or gender of the human being, is clearly divided into 3 separate categories according to Prakriti, or nature. These are Pumsprakriti, or male, Stri-Prakriti, or female, and Tritiya-Prakriti, or the third sex. These 3 genders are not determined by physical characteristics alone, but rather by an assessment of the entire being that includes the gross physical body, the subtle psychological body, and a unique consideration based upon social interaction, procreative status. Generally, the word sex refers to biological sex and gender to physiological behavior and identity. To psychological behavior and identity. The term Prakriti, or nature, however, implies both aspects together as one intricately woven and cohesive unit, and I will therefore use the 2 words more or less interchangeably in this book. People of the third sex are analyzed in the Kama Sutra and broken down into several categories that are still visible today and generally referred to as gay males and lesbians. They are typically characterized by a mixed male-female nature, i.e., effeminate males or masculine females, that can often be recognized within childhood and are identified by an inherent homosexual orientation that manifests at puberty. The homosexual behavior of these people is described in great detail within the 8th and 9th chapters of the second part of the Kama Sutra. While gay males and lesbians are the most prominent members of this category, it also includes other types of people such as transgenders and the intersexed. The third sex is described as a natural mixing or combination of the male and female natures to the point in which they can no longer be categorized as male or female in the traditional sense of the word. The example of mixing black and white paint can be used, wherein the resulting color, gray in all its many shades, can no longer be considered either black or white, although it is simply a combination of both. People of the third sex are mentioned throughout Vedic literature in different ways due to their variety of manifestations. They were not expected to behave like ordinary heterosexual men and women or to assume their roles. In this way, the third sex category served as an important tool for the recognition and accommodation of such persons within society. So it's really nice to see that they were not expected to act or behave like men and women that are heterosexual. People of the third sex are also classified under a larger social category known as the neutral gender. Its members are called Napumsaka, or those who do not engage in procreation. There are 5 different types of Napumsaka people. Number 1 is children. Number 2, the elderly. Number 3, the impotent. Number 4, the celibate. And number 5, the third sex. They were all considered to be sexually neutral by Vedic definition and were protected and believed to bring good luck. See, this is very important. Back in the old ancient Vedic times, these people of the third gender and all the Napumsaka were protected and believed to bring good luck. Imagine this. And today you have countries like all the Arabic countries and in India and some of the Asian countries who are shunning these people and giving punishment to them for being who they are. And here we see that they were actually praised as bringing good luck. As a distinct social category, Members of the neutral gender did not engage in sexual reproduction. This non-reproductive category played an integral role in the balance of both human society and nature, similar to the way in which asexual bees play out their own particular roles in the operation of a hive. In Hinduism, there are no accidents or errors, and everything in nature has a purpose, role, and reason for existence. Third gender citizens. Vedic society was all-encompassing, and each individual was seen as an integral part of the greater whole. Thus, all classes of men were accommodated and engaged according to their nature. Third gender citizens were neither persecuted nor denied basic rights. They were allowed to keep their own societies or town quarters, live together within marriage, and engage in all means of livelihood. Do you see this? They were also, able to live together within marriage. Gay men could either blend into society as ordinary males, or they could dress and behave as females living as transvestites. They are especially mentioned as being expert in dancing, singing, and acting, as barbers or hairstylists, masseurs, and house servants. They were often used within the female sections of royal palaces and also engaged in various types of prostitution. Transvestites were invited to attend all birth, marriage, and religious ceremonies, as their presence was a symbol of good luck and considered to be auspicious. Now just imagine that. A time in the world when transvestites were a symbol of good luck and considered to be auspicious. This tradition still continues in India even today. Lesbians were known as Svirini, or independent women, and were permitted to earn their own livelihood. They were not expected to accept a husband. Citizens of the third sex represented only a very small portion of the overall population, which most estimates place at approximately 5%. They were not perceived to be a threat in any way and were considered to be aloof from the ordinary attachments of procreation and family life. In this way, they were awarded their own particular status and welcomed as a part of civilized Vedic society. A matter of semantics. There is a strange being described within early British translations of Vedic literature. These beings are comic, mythical creatures that appear to have lost their relevance in modern times. They are described as neither man nor woman, or sometimes as both man and woman. They are compared to the Gandharva, or fairy, and are believed to be asexual or without sexual desire. Even Arjuna, the eternal companion of Lord Krishna and the hero of the Mahabharata, became one of these beings while hiding during his last year of exile, according to the Lord's plan. There, dressed as a woman, he wore his hair in braids, behaved in a feminine manner, and taught dancing and singing to young girls with no attraction for them. Welcome to the world of the so-called Vedic eunuch, a term so archaic and disingenuous, it provides a good lesson both in semantics and social denial. First of all, there's no recorded evidence of any system of male castration in ancient Vedic India. Castration among servants and slaves was only introduced into medieval northern India with the arrival of foreign Islamic rulers, sometime around the 11th and 12th century AD. Even then, it was usually only homosexual males who endured the dark and gruesome practice. The English word eunuch or castrated male is Greek in origin and was commonly used to refer to both homosexuals and castrated men during the Middle Ages. When the term homosexual was first coined with the advent of modern psychiatry in the late 19th century, British writers continued to cling to the word eunuch, which was considered more polite by Victorian standards. Thus, they used the word loosely to describe both homosexual and castrated men all over the world in regions ranging from Greece, Persia, India, China, Polynesia, etc. During the 19th century, when Great Britain was the major world power and had subjugated India, homosexuality was considered a sin, so horrific it was not even to be mentioned, let alone discussed. This resulted in the use of vague, inappropriate terms to describe homosexual people, such as eunuch, neuter, impotent, asexual, hermaphrodite, etc. While these different types of people exist to some degree and are included within the third gender category, they hardly would have made up its mass. Rather, by behavior, and as described in the Kama Shastra, the so-called eunuchs of ancient India engaged almost exclusively in homosexuality. The avoidance of this fact has led to an erroneous understanding of the Vedic eunuch and his relevance to modern times. Words used to describe gay and lesbian citizens in Sanskrit were inaccurately translated to skirt homosexual issues and impose Puritan ethics upon Vedic literatures where they did not otherwise exist. There are many examples of this, the most common of which is the Sanskrit word napumsaka, literally not male, which is used to refer to a man who has no taste for women and thus does not procreate. While this may technically include diseased, old, or castrated men, it most commonly refers to the gay or homosexual male, depending, of course, upon the context and behavior of the character being described. Other Sanskrit words for people of the third sex include shanda, a man who behaves like a woman, and kliba or panda, impotent with women. These words appear to be somewhat interchangeable and, like most Sanskrit terms, have several different meanings. Nevertheless, they are plainly used to describe homosexuals and other types of third sex people in Vedic texts. It is foolish to assume that Sanskrit words like napumsaka, shanda, and kliba only refer to castrated men or neuters, especially when we consider that castration was not systematically practiced in ancient India. Another good example of inaccurate translating can be found in the Sanskrit word referring to lesbians, or sphirini, literally meaning independent woman. This word was commonly mistranslated by early British scholars as corrupt woman, and when mentioning maitunam pumsi, or simply sexual union between males, the so-called scholars have chosen as their translation the unnatural offense with a male. Mistranslations such as these have only served to confuse and cover the acknowledgement of gay and lesbian people within Vedic literature, people who were nonetheless clearly recognized and defined in the Kama Shastra. In many instances, such persons were even demeaned or vilified by foreign commentators who did not understand or accept the Vedic concept of a third gender. We can only hope that future scholars and translators will be more accurate and forthright in their work. Third gender roles. The Vedic literatures are comprised of voluminous Sanskrit texts numbering in the thousands, and their priestly authors were renowned for their detailed descriptions of all sciences, both godly and mundane. To obtain a clear understanding of human sexuality, behavior, and practice, one is advised to consult the Kama Shastra, which thoroughly covers this field. It is within these texts where the most information is found regarding the third sex and its members, behavior, practices, and roles within society. A brief description will be given here, taken mostly from the 8th and 9th chapters of the second part of the Kama Sutra. People of the third sex, Tritiya-Prakriti, are of two kinds according to whether their appearance is masculine or feminine. Members of the third sex are first categorized according to whether their physical characteristics are either male or female. These are known as kliba, or gay males, and svirini, or lesbians. Each of these categories is then divided into two, depending on whether their behavior is either masculine or feminine. They are then further divided into many subcategories. Homosexual people are the most prominent members of the third sex. While appearing as ordinary males and females, their third nature identity is revealed by their exclusive romantic and sexual attraction for persons of the same physical sex. Gay men experience the attractions ordinarily felt by females, and lesbian women experience the attractions ordinarily felt by males. Such people commonly exhibit other types of cross-gender behavior, but not always. Lesbians, svirini. Under the heading of Tritiya-Prakriti, or people of the third sex, the lesbian is first described in the chapter of the Kama Sutra concerning aggressive behavior in women, purushayita. The Sanskrit word svirini refers to an independent or liberated woman who has refused a husband, earns her own livelihood, and lives either alone or in marriage with another woman. Her various types of homosexual behavior and practices are described in great detail within this chapter. Lesbians were more likely to marry and raise children than their male counterparts, and were readily accommodated both within the third gender community and ordinary society. Those who did not produce children were sometimes known as nastriya, or not female.